All right, we are here today with the serious, never joking, Gibson Wren. Dave Gibson and Gabriel Wren. How are you guys?
I'm great.
Good. It's good to see you. I've known you for a long time. It's good to meet you. And you guys have a new collaboration. Let's start with talk about how you met and just let everybody know how that friendship came to be and how you guys started writing in the collaboration. And then we'll kind of talk about what you got coming up for the future and what's going on.
Well, I got a call from my bass player. Our old bass player was in Gibson Miller Band, Doug Cahan, and he said, "Man, would you mind subbing for me on this Songster Bus thing?" And I said, "What is that?" And he says, "Well, you know, you drive around ride around in a bus for about 8 hours, 7, 8 hours, and you write a song with these up and coming writers." And I said, "Oh man, that sounds weird." He said, "No, it's a lot of fun." He said, "I've done it for like a couple of years, and so I said, "Okay, yeah, I'll do it." And it was like I get on this bus, and one of my buddies, another writer friend of mine, Barney Nelson, he and I read a bunch of songs together, so we're friends. He's up the front with like 3 other writers, and so I get the back of the bus with Gabe, and there's 2 other writers, a gal and a guy. And so I introduced myself, and as he says, after an hour and a half of talking about yourself, we finally started this song.
That's exactly what it was.
That's not true.
It was
Not
roughly an hour and a half. And I get what he was. I mean, that's the Marine in me. I'm ready to go to work. When somebody punches the clock, I want to go to work.
You're ready to go.
And so I'm sitting there, and I'm starting to kind of, we've only got a limited amount of time to write this song, and he's talking about, this and that, and he's kind of going through his whole career, up to the point where we're at, which is amazing because he's, been
Absolutely.
one of the guys I've always looked up to in music since I was younger. And so at the same time where I'm like, wow, this is really cool, I'm thinking, man, we need to get to work. Because Bernie Nelson's up there, and he's already got the first verse.
They're whipping them out.
And he's halfway into a chorus, and so I'm kind of looking at Dave, and I think he finally started seeing me like kind of starting to panic a little bit.
I was just telling them about how I'd come to Nashville, and I just I was actually asking them about where they were from and all that. It wasn't all about me. But,
Mostly about you, but not all about me.
but I just wanted them to realize, what a tough business it was. Although some people call me the luckiest man in show business, but that's way back when. Anyway, we started writing this song, and there was a couple of different topics. It was about heroes, I mean, this whole Songster Bus thing was for the Gold Star Moms, and you can explain that.
Yeah, it's called the Nashville Connection, and what they do is every year they have a bus, and the young writers pay to be on the bus, and they get to write with a great writer that lives here in Nashville or from wherever they're from. But this year they had 2 buses. They had one come out of Atlanta, and that was kind of a hip hop R&B kind of bus, and then they had one in Nashville, and it was a competition ultimately, and all the money, all the proceeds go to the Gold Star Moms program. And so they organize these buses, and then at the end of the week, we do this thing at Belcourt Taps, and we had a competition. And we didn't win the competition, which actually was great because our song's amazing that we wrote. And it was about the husband and wife and the doorstep. You're walking out to go to war, and she's the one that has to stay behind, and it's called Hero. And it talks about how they're each other's hero for the position that they're in.
Yeah, the whole concept. I mean, explain the Gold Star Moms.
The Gold Star Moms are mothers of fallen combat veterans.
I've heard of that before. Yeah.
Yeah.
So they do a lot of work with the Gold Star Moms program, and it's a very honorable mission to be working with those families because they carry that loss forever.
Absolutely.
And it's good for them to have the reminder that the people are still behind them, and the people still value and appreciate what their son or daughter went through.
And Gabe is a veteran of all 3 branches of the military.
Wow.
He started Marines and then Army and then...
Yeah, the only one I didn't do was the Navy. I started out with the Marine Corps. I went into the Army National Guard, then I joined the Air, National Guard that I went back to the Army National Guard. And I did a total of 15 years.
That's a rare feat. You don't hear very many people being in that many branches. You hear of a lot of people being in a branch for a long time,
Right.
but not being in different ones. What made you want to try the different ones?
Well, they ran him out.
I figured that you were going to say that.
That's why I wait to respond.
See, I know his answers
I know,
too
so-
well.
I know that's why I pause, because I know there's something coming. You just don't know what it is yet. But no, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I took a break in service, and I went home and I worked in my family's business, which was a trucking company. And I did that for a while, and it was right about the time that 9/11 happened. I got out in June of 01, 9/11 happened in September. And so I went about 2 years really fighting with myself because I was still young enough and I felt like I had an obligation. And then I ended up hearing about some things that had happened involving some people that I was stationed with back at Miramar. And it kind of broke my heart. So I tried to go back to the Marine Corps, and it had been a few years at this point, and they were like, well, it's going to be real hard to get you back in active duty. And about that time, somebody had mentioned to me that, hey, you can walk right into the National Guard and still do the same kind of stuff. And so I went down and saw the National Guard, and I ended up signing up in 05, right at the end of my contract with the Marine Corps. You have 4 years active, 4 years inactive.
Mm-hmm.
So right at the end of that contract, I signed up with the National Guard and went to the infantry, and then went back to the military police and did some pretty cool jobs with them. And then same kind of deal. I was trying to see what was next, and I was looking to move somewhere else and do a different type of job, and the Air Force was available, so I went to them for a year. And then I got a call to go to Afghanistan to work with a unit that I was previously with in the Army, so I transferred back across the line.
Wow, that in itself is a story. There's so many. So talk about the collaboration between you two and the song, and how that all came about.
Well, I write songs and he puts his name on them.
Oh, chalk one up for Gabe.
I've been around this town for a good while, and I know how to get those songs. I know how to get my name on songs. we actually have a great writing chemistry together, and I when I met him, I realized that when he when he got on stage and sang the song that we wrote, he had never really sang before, and especially in front of music people,
Mm-hmm.
And there was Daryl Worley sitting out in the audience,
No
who was
pressure.
a judge, and then the other hip hop guys that were there, and they were big time, a lot of success.
Yeah.
And so I'm sitting there in the back because I can't get up with him, and he's got the lyric in his hand, and the other guy's playing the guitar, and I'm like, oh my god, I hope he pulls this off. Well, he starts talking to these people, the judges and everybody else, and I'm like, well, hell, he's got these people in the palm of his hand. I mean, I was very, very impressed with his ability to do that, on a stage he had really never been before. And they did the song, and he did it great, and I was like, this guy's really got something here, And he never really had thought about being an artist, even singing. He had written a couple songs, he could tell you about that, but they got into a reality show. But I heard those songs, and I said, man, you wrote these by yourself? And he was singing one of them, and I'm like, yeah, this is really something here. This is something different. He doesn't sound like anybody else on the radio, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
There's, it seems like I want something different than everybody else is doing. So he just, he happened to fit in there, and I'm like, yeah, let's write some songs. And then he had an idea for Father Son, and that was first song, or second song?
Father Son was the second song we wrote. I moved to Nashville after I got out of the military just to move here. I love the South. I love Tennessee. It's always felt like home every time I've been around it. And so, I packed up in 2013 and I moved out here. And no interest in the music business, nothing.
Just love the city.
Just love the area. And then I ran into a guy named Jason Herby, who used to be the older brother on the Wonder Years. He was the really ornery older brother. And we became good friends. And we were sitting around one day, and his son had a guitar. And I started kind of just playing a few chords that I knew and doing a Waylon Jennings song, Are You Sure Hank Done It That Way, or This Way. He goes, man, do you ever write anything? And I was like, no, not really. And he goes, well, if you ever want to write anything, and you think it's any good, give it to me, and I'll send it to my music people for the TV shows, and maybe we could place it on something. And it wasn't a few days later that he'd showed me a pilot for a TV show called Outlaw Country. And I went home and I wrote a song called I'm on the Outside. I put myself in the character's position and wrote a song called I'm on the Outside. And I wrote it in like 15 minutes, and I was just like, see if it's any good. Says, yeah. See if it's any good. So I sent it to him, and they contacted me immediately, and they said, this is perfect for the show. We're gonna put it on some episodes. And then they sent a film crew to the studio when I went to record it, and they ended up putting me on the first episode of the show, which is the Bad Blood trailer. And then it aired. They asked me for one more song, and so I ended up on like 4 or 5 episodes for the series, and that was really like the first thing I'd ever even attempted. I mean, I played guitar when I was younger. And
right place, right time, right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I never really made anything out of it. I mean, I did some stuff, like sang at a coffee house or karaoke and just goofed around, but nothing ever like with intent. And when I went into that, I went in with intent, and it just happened to work. And that's how I got the call to get on the bus, and how we ultimately met.
I always say you cross your paths with people for a purpose. Always, you don't always know why. You don't know what the timing is going to be, but there's a reason for it. So obviously, there was a reason for everything leading up to this, and so now you've got the single that you've collaborated on, and then you're producing some other things for him. So you're not actually a duet, but you are collaborating on some stuff, and gonna just kind of take it and see what happens.
Absolutely, we're just taking it one step at a time, and whatever happens, happens. We put this song out because we thought it would be great for Father's Day, and maybe a little bit too late to put it out, but we just said, people need to hear this song, and the song is way better than just a song for Father's Day,
Absolutely.
It says an awful lot that I think there's not enough songs written about fathers and sons. And I mean, it has a little bit of a religious connotation to it, but that's not what the song is all about. It's it is a real solid piece of work, that I'm really proud of.
Good.
Yeah, we I had this idea. I almost lost my dad in 2011. It was the end of 2011, and I'd got a Red Cross message while I was in Afghanistan, and it said, soldier's father in critical condition, life expectancy unknown. And that's all you get. You don't get anything else.
Right, very minimal.
I left that day. It was 2 weeks before we were supposed to go home. I left that day. I had 3 days trip to get back. It was 2 helicopters and 3 airplanes to get home. I got to my dad, his bedside, and he had already died a few times, and they brought him back, and they said all the normal things. He's going to lose a lot of his brain function. He probably won't be the same again. This and that. I don't ever buy into that. You know what I mean? Like you've got to prove to me that that's going to happen, and I know my dad. And he fought for me. He said he told me he wrote on a board and he said, I've been waiting for you.
Wow.
So I mean, I almost lost him, and it was heartbreaking.
There's a song right there.
Yeah, well, that's.
He's like.
I was writing that down in my brain. I was like,
See, I'm real good at picking up those lines. I'm not a songwriter, but that's a song right there.
And then I was talking to my my buddy.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. I was talking to my buddy's dad after they lost Grandpa back home, and I said, hey, I said, it's got to be hard coming out here to the field all the time, and he's not here to be in the field with you. And he said, I could have used a few more days with him. And that right there stuck with me forever. And so take that plus what happened with my dad, and I came up with the first line of the song, and I brought it to Dave. And
then I wrote the rest of it.
You can't win. You may as well just give it up.
You can't. But no, I brought it to him, and he goes, man, I really like this. And we sat down, and we wrote that song in about an hour from start to finish. And I've never been more proud of something that I've done. I think it's an amazing song, and it's a great tribute to dads or that father figure.
Yeah.
Some people didn't grow up with their own father, but they may have had that male influence, and that's really what it's about.
So tell me, where can fans find the song? Where can they listen to it? Are you going to go out on a radio tour? What's your plans with everything?
It's right now. It's on rotation on 32 stations, and everywhere from we've got New York, Missouri, Texas, Alabama, Kentucky, Tennessee. I mean, it's kind of all over the place, but it is on all the social media outlets: iTunes, Amazon, Google, YouTube as well. So it's out there everywhere. For people to pick up, and it's under Gibson Wren. We also have Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter also under Gibson Wren, and then we have our individual pages as well if people want to follow us individually.
Very cool. Well, it's great talking to you guys.
Yeah.
Fun as always.
Thank
Never a dull
you.
moment. And I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more. It sounds like we've got some more good ideas coming, so
Yeah.
I think you guys have hit on something, and there's some more good stuff coming.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
You're very welcome.